Listen up. There's no more excuses.
We're empowering those who want the hustle by exposing the status quo.
The days of ordinary are over.
It's time to crush mediocrity and start discovering your greatest potential.
Welcome to the Hustle Nation. To the Hustle Nation. To the Hustle Nation.
To the hustle nation.
To the hustle.
Welcome back to another episode of the Hustle Nation podcast. Today is another episode of the Failure Files. Today, we're going to talk about a brand that has so much nostalgia for me, and that brand is Nintendo. Failure Files today talks about Nintendo's Wii U failed and then sold 150 plus million of a better idea. The core lesson here is that sometimes the idea isn't wrong. It's the execution of the idea that sucks. So here's a business question. What if your biggest failure contained the blueprint for your biggest success? Well, let's go all the way back to 2006 when Nintendo launched the Wii. If you recall, it was a massive hit. And what was interesting was that it wasn't just a hit with kids and young people, it was a hit with young adults and adults. Brought families together, almost akin to the original NES. More than 100 million consoles sold. Then came its successor, Wii U. Very few people, including myself, remember that one. Lifetime sales, just $13.56 million. For Nintendo, this was a disaster. Then Nintendo launched the Switch years later. And the interesting thing is, some of the ideas people loved about the Switch weren't entirely new. Nintendo had been experimenting with the pieces of that experience with the Wii U. So maybe the Wii U wasn't simply a terrible idea. Maybe it was an idea that wasn't ready yet and wasn't communicated properly. Going back to a lot of my marketing thoughts and a lot of the ideas and businesses I was quick to launch, selfishly and personally, they're not all bad ideas, but I can tell you that the execution of some was just flawed at best. So what went wrong here for Nintendo? Well, let's start with the name, Wii U. What does that even mean? UII space capital U. Is it that it was a new console? Was it upgraded? An upgrade from the Wii? Was it even necessary? Or was it an accessory? Then look at the product. The big differentiator was this tablet-like GamePad. But Nintendo's messaging puts so much emphasis on the controller that some consumers reportedly weren't clear on what the Wii U actually was. That confusion had remained as one of the defining criticisms of its launch. Again, that's marketing 101. If people don't understand or they don't fully get what your product is and what it does, the confused mind says no, and people bail, right? So if customers don't understand what you're selling, you've already lost. And there is where other issues come about. There was software cadence, third-party support, and competition all mattered. The final sales numbers tell the story. 13.56 million U consoles sold. Compare that with more than 100 million Wii systems before that. But here's where it gets really interesting. Nintendo could have looked at Wii U and concluded, customers don't want that concept. Instead, the Switch took a new, clear position. Play on your television, pull it out, keep playing. It's a home console that's also a portable console, and it's all in one device. There's something simple and easy about that. There's something that says convenience. People like that because simplicity and convenience sell. You could argue maybe some of the most important things in life and in marketing. Even some successful Switch software had Wii U roots, including the Mario Kart 8, I should say, and Legends of Zelda, or the Breath of the Wild game. Nintendo didn't throw away the idea just because it wasn't great. They figured out which parts were worth keeping and which simply were not. So, what are the lessons in all of this? Well, first, don't confuse failed execution with a failed idea. This happens consistently in business. You launch a product, nobody buys it, nobody wants it, maybe, or your pricing was wrong. Your message sucked. The onboarding was confusing. The packaging was terrible. You targeted the wrong audience. You launched too early. Your technology was weak. Your sales team couldn't explain it. Those are completely different diagnoses. And if you diagnose the wrong disease, you're going to prescribe the wrong treatment. And I'm just guessing, if you're anything like me, you've done that both in your personal life and in business. Lesson number 2, clarity beats cleverness. And I would underscore that. I'm just going to say it again because I think it's really important. Clarity beats cleverness. Wii U sounds clever, I guess, even though I don't even know what that means. Wii U, except customers had to understand what it meant. Switch? The name basically explains the product. You switch it. TV to handheld, handheld to TV. That's powerful branding. If you need a 5-minute explanation, or I'd argue even a 2-minute explanation, before somebody understands what your product does, you've got a problem. Not just a marketing problem, a business problem. Lesson 3 here, your failures contain customer research you already paid for. Think about how much Nintendo learned from millions of Wii U owners, how people played, what they liked, what they ignored, where hardware created friction, which games resonated. You can look at a failed product and say, that cost us millions. Or you can say something like, we just spent millions learning what the next product needs to become. Obviously, you'd prefer to learn cheaply, but that's not reality, at least not always. But once you've already paid the tuition, you might as well take the class. Am I wrong? And that's where the failure files start. Wii U didn't become successful. Nintendo didn't magically rescue it. It failed commercially. But failure doesn't require you to throw everything away. Failure doesn't require you to start over. Sometimes the smartest question isn't, why didn't this work? It's, which part actually did work? Keep that, fix the rest, and try again. Because sometimes your worst product contains the DNA of your best one. And that's this week's failure files. So, in closing, I want you to go through some of the things you've done in life and some of the projects that you've launched and ask yourself, was this good? And was this parts of this that just didn't work? What parts just didn't work? And what could I bring to the relaunch of this product, this project, or this thing that we are working on? The failure files is all about helping you see things differently. As I often say, it's about finding the silver lining. Because if you're always finding the silver lining, you're always seeing the glass as half full. And that, my friends, is a lesson worth repeating. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Hustle Nation podcast. We'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.